What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Hopefully, everyone is having a good day and cranking along here on the lead up to the Super Bowl. And today we will not be opening up, I can't even speak, with any thoughts on the Super Bowl because Myles Garrett, one of the best players in the National Football League, has officially requested a trade. So we will dive into that and what it means. I think I have a good historical comp if you're thinking about putting all your chips in the middle of the table to make a swing, a deal, and try to go land the dominant pass rusher. Though the Browns claim that they will not trade him, we will see. The A lot of stuff going on in the NFL. I thought I'd just rattle through some stuff. Roger Goodell spoke. I mean, it wasn't that explosive, but there were a couple things to take away. People have been asking me about Australia games. I guess people in Australia that they like the NFL, and it looks like the NFL is going back to Australia. And Chip Kelly, Joe Burrow, the Jags, and Tony Baselli. So we will hit on a bunch of things in the NFL today, and that's what we'll do all week because we only got one more game left. 60 minutes left of football. I've already placed a little bet. I got a Travis Kelce, Jalen Hurts, same game touchdown parlay. I think it pays like 3.5 to 1, 3 to 1. So let's go, baby. Need some touchdowns. Need Travis Kelce. Maybe on his way out, too. This could be his last game. But before we dive in to some football, you know I got to tell you about my friends, my partners in the official ticketing app of this podcast. Listen, they're the best. They have been awesome because you guys have all used them. I've used them. And if you want to go to anything, a game, college or pro, do you want to go to a concert? Do you want to go to a comedy show? Do you want to get out of the house and enjoy life? That's one thing I told Maria, 2025, I'm going to be more social. I'm going to enjoy more life, and I'm going to do fun things. And listen, I've done a lot of fun things because of these guys. Gone to see Morgan Wallen. I've gone to see Toby Keith before he passed away. It was awesome. Gone to my first hockey game. Cannot recommend him enough. The flash deals, the price points, the ease in which to search for your event or your team. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Well, this is usually how a marquee, superstar, highly paid, great player of his generation is typically supposed to get moved. Now, Myles Garrett hasn't been moved yet, but typically there is a trade request because that's usually the only reason you trade an all-time great player in the peak of his powers. He demands to get traded, and you're like, you know what? We'll just sell high on this. It's not worth the energy that it will take to massage this relationship. And on the flip side, sometimes a player just gets to a point where it's like, I've had enough. I've given you 8 years. Most of them have been just pretty incredible. And Myles Garrett I love it when a guy puts out a letter or just some words, couple paragraphs when he's requesting a trade. The first sentence, or usually the first, I would say 7 or 8 sentences are like, this place is meant everywhere. This is where my firstborn son was born, took his first steps, and called me daddy. You, the fans, have been the heartbeat of not just this team, but of my success, of us as an organization. You guys mean it. I've grown up as a man under your watch. You just go on and on and on. And then the last line is always, with that being said, I've officially requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. Come get me. Let's put in your offers now to Andrew Berry. I'm ready for a new challenge. So never fault a player. Been there for a long time, given them a lot, and it does feel like it's time. When you look at Myles Garrett, he is just an elite player. And really, since 2018, he has been an all-pro every single year, first or second team. Obviously, he won a Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. He's everything you want in an edge rusher in terms of size, the physical characteristics, the blue chip nature. He's the number one overall pick. The speed, the athleticism, the burst. I mean, he's a pass rusher who is made in a lab. And we argue a lot on this show is obviously quarterback. If you can get a starting quarterback and definitely a star quarterback, they always are number one on the hierarchy. Who's number two? Is it a left tackle? You could argue right tackle. Is it just a tackle or a pass rusher? Uh, I don't think there's any difference between the two. I would have them, 2A and 2B. Tell me who the better prospect is, right? If you tell me it's like a solid pass rusher and elite tackle, I'll take the offensive tackle. If you tell me it's Myles Garrett and just a solid starter, I'll take Myles Garrett. Those two positions are a must. Ideally, you get both of them. You get a good tackle and you get a star rusher, right? And that's what Myles Garrett is. And I think sometimes when you've been in Cleveland, when you've seen the dysfunction, and at the end of the day, what Myles Garrett knows, they're stuck. Why? Because Deshaun Watson is an anchor on the franchise. And it's something that in his career, it's going to weigh him down. He could have a 30 sack season. It doesn't matter because they've guaranteed this guy so much money. They guaranteed at the time Myles Garrett a historical haul. You know what? It didn't matter. He produced and he dominated and he became the defensive player of the year and he Pro Bowls, all pros. Like that's what you want when you pay a guy a premium. You want them to respond and be the best player on the field. And we see that around the NFL all the time, right? The Minnesota Vikings gave Justin Jefferson all that money. Year one, it's like, geez, God, this guy's good. The Cowboys gave CeeDee Lamb all that money. You're like, geez, my God, I want this guy on my team. And that's what you want when you pay these guys the unlimited amount of cash that they're now making because of the revenue in the NFL. And Myles Garrett is everything you want in a super high pick. He becomes a superstar player. But when you're in a dysfunctional organization, these guys eventually, even when they've, money can buy loyalty, let's face it. But there comes to a breaking point where it's like, this sucks. Now, part of this is he wants a new contract as well, and it's time to pay him. So if you are going to trade for Myles Garrett, you're then going to double down more than likely and give him, 120 to 140 million dollars guaranteed. I actually don't think it's that crazy. To me, his historical comp, I kind of looked around. Free agency began in the early 90s, and one of the biggest first free agents, and really a guy that changed the game, was Reggie White. Now, when Reggie White went to the Green Bay Packers, he was older than Myles Garrett is today. Myles Garrett turned 29 in December, so he will basically play the majority of next season at 29 years old. Reggie White, during his Packer career, was basically 31, 32 to 37, 38 years old. So it was like in his early to mid to late 30s is when he played for the Green Bay Packers. And every single year he was a Pro Bowler and a first or second team All Pro. And that's when Pro Bowls matter, not when they just became the participation award, where it's like, who's in this? You're like, oh yeah, Drake, Mac Jones, Trey Lance. You're like, what is going? How is this happening? It's like, no, that was a day. Like when I was a kid, you made the Pro Bowl, you were an elite player. It's like NBA All Star Game, same thing, right? And the NBA All Star Game still is that the best players go. Now they may not play, they definitely do not now. But the Pro Bowl now, you have no clue who is going to accept. Most of them would rather go to Cancun with their wife or girlfriend or just go play golf. But Reggie White was signed, and from 32 to 38 years old for 6 years, he was worth every penny. And he solidified his Hall of Fame career and obviously was a huge, huge part of the Packers turning that franchise around with Brett Favre and Mike Holmgren and winning a Super Bowl and going to another. So I think when you look at Myles Garrett, this is not one of those Luka situations where all these teams are like, guys, you could have called us. We'd have offered you a shitload. We'd have offered you so much, it would have been hard to hang up the phone. Even if you didn't, you wanted Anthony Davis that bad. You would have not slept well at night with our offer on the table, right? And I think that's what every team in the league is going to call about Myles Garrett. Every single one. And there are going to be, I would imagine, 10 to 15 that are going to be ultra aggressive. You're talking first round picks, you're talking second round picks, you're talking players like willing to play ball. And this isn't just playoff teams. Like it's easy to go, well, the Green Bay Packers or the Washington Commanders. I think average to below average teams are going to get involved because it's like, well, we give you can make a long list of the ability to make a package to land this guy. And when the dust settles, I would say minimum you're getting a one, several twos, maybe a three, and some players. It is going to blow your socks off. And more than likely, they're going to start the offer. If you're on the Cleveland side, is like multiple ones, multiple twos, and a player. Now it gets a little complicated because of the money that you have to pay him and his age. If this was a guy after his first, aka his rookie contract, you'd be talking about like three first round picks. But because, you're talking about eighth, ninth, 10th year guy going into his 30s, maybe you only get one, but to me, it's a ton of twos, threes, players. It wouldn't shock me at all if they got multiple ones and two and players. So the amount that you're not only going to ask, the amount that you're going to end up getting is going to be a shitload. It's a lot like real estate, right? Certain markets, you can start the bidding at whatever number. It's only going to go up because that is a desired neighborhood. And when you talk about a pass rusher, you're talking about probably, you could argue, the most desired pass rusher in the NFL. I mean, honestly, his only negative is that he's almost 30. But if you look at it like Reggie White, the thing with Luca is like, yeah, we think he's fat. That's I never want that to be a conversation with my GM or my coach about my superstar player. Though he's like if he's fat, he's like the greatest fat player I've ever seen. But like when you look at Myles Garrett, no one worries. Like I wonder about his conditioning. I remember a couple years ago when the highlights came out, he was playing at like the YMCA pickup basketball, and it was like, is that LeBron James? And it was Myles Garrett like dunking on people. I mean, he looked like an NBA player. And Cleveland immediately came out and was like, you cannot do that. Obviously, they're worried about him like shattering a knee or an ankle. But his highlights on the basketball court athletically look like a high end NBA athlete. And he's a defensive end. So, like, from a physicality standpoint, from a genetic standpoint, I don't think anyone's worried. Like, I wonder if Myles Garrett's going to put on some weight as he get older. The only thing you worry about with older players are susceptibility to injuries. And to me, he looked like a pretty durable player. And Reggie White clearly was, looking at his time, his tenure in Green Bay from, he basically turned 32 in Green Bay through 38, was playing all the time, was not missing games. So I don't know if you trade for Myles Garrett, you're thinking he's going to play for you till 38. But I think it's realistic to think I can get 4 years out of a first team All Pro. Like that's the level in which he gives me at that position. So teams are going to be very, very interested. And to me, like the playoff teams, it gets complicated, right? If you are the Lions, for example, you just paid a lot of guys on your team. You just paid a ton of guys on your team. In the first couple years, their salary cap number is a little lower because you can finagle the books that way. But in a couple years, it's all going to hit. And you also have a guy in Aiden Hutchinson, assuming that he comes back healthy, and it was just a broken leg. Like he's going to need to get paid in a year. So, like to me, they were a team like I'd give 2 1s for him right now. And who knows? Maybe they do it. I think the Green Bay Packers are a team. Speaking of Reggie White, who should be all in on this guy. I see the Washington Commanders mentioned a lot on the interweb, and I see both sides of it. It's like, well, when you get Jaden Daniels, you might as well double the bleep down. And when you get Jaden Daniels, like this is part of like hitting a quarterback, go all in. Now, the thing I would say is, your draft picks, you would still like to use, like if it's going to cost you 2 1s, you have a bunch of money. Now, you're not going to be able to sign a guy in free agency remotely as good as Myles Garrett, but couldn't we utilize signing the best free agents and even quote unquote overpaying and then also using our draft picks, which we've proven to be pretty good at, only through a short period of time here? Like, I got to be pretty confident that I'm going to nail some of those picks, but these are conversations that you're going to have long and hard. Like, if you're Cleveland, I don't think you're opposed to trading him in the AFC if the offer is right, but like you're not trading him in your division. You're not trading him to the Baltimore Ravens. You're not trading him to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Patriots are a team that I see, mentioned a lot. I think the problem for the shitty teams is I don't think you can trade them with a straight face to your fans without getting a first round pick in 2025 in this upcoming draft. And if you're the Patriots, given how terrible you are, you have a ton of money, but you are terrible. Like, I don't think you can give the fourth pick for him because you're not a player away from being a player away from being 3 players away. But if you're Washington, I think you go, well, couldn't we just buy some free agents Offensively, maybe a T. Higgins, bring Zach Ertz back, draft a running back in the third round, and let's just go all in for Myles Garrett. I think you'd have to think long and hard. So to me, Washington, Detroit, Green Bay, the Rams are always sniffing around. I would say the Eagles as well. We know Howie's relationship with Andrew Berry. So I understand Cleveland going, you know what? We don't want to trade you. And that seems like a consistent theme. There gets to a point where you're in such a shitty position because of the Deshaun Watson contract. You kind of have a chance to reset your whole franchise. And it's not like you're trading this guy after his rookie contract. He's given you defensive player of the year, all these all pros. Like you can still sell him really, really high, right? In a year or two, if something gets weird, if he were to get injured, his value could get cut in half immediately. So, given your situation with the anchor of Watson's contract, that you have this super high pick, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to just nuke this thing. So, Cleveland can say whatever they want. My guess is that Myles Garrett ends up getting traded before or right around free agency. This ain't the little itty bitty tiny bowl. This is the Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is key to hosting the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a TD. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get 200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get 200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The crown is yours. Some other stuff in the NFL today. Florio reported that the owners want to get this 18-game schedule on the books, like happening in the next 2 to 3 years, and they hope to get it solidified by the end of 2025. So it's going to be a huge push. I would imagine as some of these owners' meetings happen, that conversation is going to grow and grow and grow. Now, Goodell pushed back and said that we haven't had any serious conversations about that. I think it's an easy thing to kind of lie about. Uh, Listen, we know the 18 game schedule is coming. I think the only question is, does it come in 2027 or does it come in 2030? If I was a betting man, the way the NFL operates, once they put their mind to something, they usually get it. And I also think their negotiation with the players is pretty easy. It's more money for you. Like it's just another check. It just brings in more revenue. So I would guess that the latest was 25, the 2028 we have an 18 game schedule. Goodell says like, and listen, they're going to Australia in 2 years for the first time they've been to Australia since 1999, and that was a preseason game. All signs point to it being the Eagles, who one of their star players, Jordan Mailata, Australian guy, and the Los Angeles Rams. I do think, one theory I had with the NFL is this next, whenever they get into business in 7, 8 years to re up the television deal, it's clear that TV is going to be dramatically different. Just think about the way that we consume. I know for this, like, I watch a lot of CBS, ABC, and NBC because I watch football and golf, right? And basketball, and I watch sports. But if I didn't, I would, even my YouTube TV, I would be much more inclined to just watch Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, whatever it may be, and just watch the shows that they bring to the table. Because I think about when it's not about me, when I get into my bed at night and we go, let's watch something, we do not go to YouTube TV to see what's on any of the channels, right? I wonder what's playing on ESPN tonight. I wonder what's on even just Bravo or whatever shows she would watch. We go to Netflix. We go to Hulu. We go to Paramount Plus or Amazon Prime. Now, those take shows from some of those networks, obviously, but the NFL's no dummy. They see where all this is trending. So part of going international, because I keep going like, what's the point? If they're not going to move the Jags over to London, like, why are they so dead set on doing this? Well, they want to continue to grow the fan base because guess what? When they sign, they do in the Netflix the couple games right now on Christmas. What about when they sign a package? So every week, two games on Sunday, morning and afternoon, are on Netflix. Well, where can Netflix broadcast to? All over the world. So they would like people in the UK, they would like people in Australia, they would like people in you name it, Brazil, Southern America, in Asia to watch the games. So their strategy, again, this is just an educated guess here. The expansion of these games over there is just to build the audience for the streamers. So when they send the Giants and the Jags, even when they send the shitty games over the course of the years, that eventually when Netflix or Apple or whoever gets these packages, and it's no longer just on CBS like it is now, that those people over there can watch it. Why? Because they have access to Netflix just like you and I do. That's why Jake Paul and Mike Tyson did such massive numbers. It wasn't just dudes in Texas and Los Angeles and Seattle watching. It was a 28-year-old dude or a 38-year-old dude or a 48-year-old dude in fucking Australia or in Germany or in San Sebastian in Spain. Like I dropped that, I've been there once. Pretty cool place. Highly recommend it. But that my point is that I think that's what they're doing here. It's not about putting teams over there. It's about building the audience for the streamers. And that's why he said he wants to start a flag football league. That I just wrote LOL. Start a flag football league? And maybe I'm underestimating it. I know a lot of kids play flag football now. I mean, flag football has always been around. Like when I was in college, intramural football was not tackled as flag. Was just seeing Roger say the flag football thing has just made me laugh. He uh he hammered the Brady thing with Fox and the Raiders is a non-issue, and he was very impressed with how Brady balanced it. I really don't think he cares. The only way that I see it becoming an issue is if other owners make it a big deal. And until they do that, like Roger doesn't care because you get one of the most famous guys in league history on your broadcast, which whether he's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's still a positive for the league. He's not that bad, but I mean, he's watchable. And they clearly just, I think you like having a good relationship with your superstar players. He claimed that the Chiefs officiating conversation is a ridiculous theory and things on the internet can grow to a life of their own. He's not wrong. Uh, but so yeah, Roger, this is a big week for him. This is, in the business of the NFL, they have a lot of people that spend a lot of money. And obviously the TV partners, this is a huge week for Fox, but also all their beer sponsors, all the people that are a part of their operation that spend a lot of money for the individual teams. This is the week when you bring them and their executive team and their teams that work on the projects for you, and you wine and dine them, and they get to enjoy and they get the VIP experience. And that's when you hear people say this is a corporate event. That's what they mean as a corporate event, because the Coors Lights, the Bud Lights, the Verizons, the you fucking name it, who spend millions of dollars and sign $100 million long-term deals with the league. Like this is really about them, and then kind of the two fan bases of the teams. But like the number one goal for the league is to make sure those people have a good time. Um, Chip Kelly, we talked about it yesterday. I was a little befuddled, might be the right word. Perplexed. Just don't really see the fit. Think it's a little weird with Pete and Chip. Also, was a little taken back that Chip would keep bouncing around, kind of like an NBA player that's just a mercenary. And then I saw that Albert Breer reported that he got $6 million a year. And Chip Kelly is now the highest paid coordinator in the NFL. People are going to think I'm a hater, and there's nothing else I can say to debunk that, but I don't know how your take couldn't be that is absurd. That is insanity. Vic Fangio, who I think was the highest paid coordinator before this, making a little over $4 million. I would say, Howie, listen, you're gonna have to talk to Jeffrey for me because I can't coach Super Bowl till I make more than Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's worked in the NFL for 4 seasons. One of them is the worst season in the history of the San Francisco 49ers. Like literally statistically, the worst season in the history of the franchise. The previous season in Philadelphia, with games left on the schedule, Big Dom had to escort him out of the building. And I get that he just won a national championship with Ohio State, who has like an unlimited great players, who has a receiver that we all agree who's 19 years old would be, I don't know if he'd be the number one overall pick in this draft. Abdul Carter probably still would because he's defensive end, but this kid would be a top five pick. They have multiple, they have just star players everywhere. And yeah, their offense is decent. I saw him when he played the Michigan Wolverines, who's their coordinator? Oh, yeah, an NFL guy, Wink Martindale, beat the fuck out of him. How does it make any sense? I don't get it. And the other thing, clearly, it's not like Chip just like, I really want to work in the NFL, right? Because he's making $2.5 million at Ohio State. The average coordinator like him, he's got, some leverage because of he makes. Okay, it's like, hey, we'll pay you $3.5 million. In what world do you have to pay him $6 million? So it shows you, like, did he really want the job, or did you just pay him a 3-year contract worth $18 million? Like, yeah, I can't turn that down. Like, I just think I think it's crazy. And I applauded the hire with Pete Carroll. Obviously, I love the John Spytek hire, but being forced to give Chip Kelly the highest contract in the history of the NFL. Like I saw Todd Munkin, who, listen, we can nitpick all we want in these playoff games. In what world, who just signed a new contract, could Todd Munkin, as an NFL coordinator, has been doing it for a long time, make less money than Chip Kelly? I would imagine a lot of owners are like, what are we doing here? It's one thing when you give a guy like Spagnola, who's done it at the highest level, won you championships, and it's clear, right? Because a lot of coordinators in the NFL are head coaches. So they're in a different bucket. But let's go Spags. If Chip Kelly's worth six, what's Spags worth? 20? I mean, one of Chip Kelly's flaws when he was in the NFL as a head coach slash offensive coordinator, his teams didn't do that well against physical defenses. They got tossed around. Why? It's a little soft. Now, you could say the game has changed a little bit since then. Not totally wrong. And Chip has, I would say, continues to attempt to innovate. But $6 million? I feel like right now the Raiders, because they've made so much more money moving to Vegas, they got this influx of cash with Brady and all these venture capitalist guys. This is a place where coaches go to rob them. Like, Mark, how could you go? Yeah, listen, I'm not here to meddle. Not here to meddle. If you wanted to give $6 million to Spagnola, to Kevin O'Connell, to whoever the brightest young coordinator is who's kicking ass, taking names, I could be convinced. But this guy is crazy. I mean, it's insanity. I think Joe Burrow, speaking of money, I think he's trying to kind of go like LeBron on the Bengals. He was interviewed the other day on Sirius XM, and he basically said that I feel like we can retain all of our star players, i.e., Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson. The problem is, and Duke Tobin and the Bengals ownership have talked about it, like, we can't pay six guys all top of the market money. That's not really the way the business works. And they're not totally wrong. And I understand where Joe Burrow's coming from. Like, obviously, Chase is going nowhere, but I do not want to lose the other two guys. And if you're Joe Burrow, you definitely don't want to lose T. Higgins because that impacts you. And you're no dummy. You know how hard it is to find a guy like Hendrickson. I think he's trying to do it. But, like, this is not the NBA. And this is a situation where I don't know if it's going to change. You're dealing with an old, stubborn owner. Like, you're dealing with a guy who it was very difficult for him to change with you. And you were a quarterback, and it's clear how hard it is to find that position. I think he'd go, listen, we'll find another T. Higgins. And I don't even know if he's totally wrong on that. Because I saw a report today, I think from Jeremy Fowler, that T. Higgins is going to want $30+ million a year. Well, if he wants $30+ million a year, what's Jamar Chase going to want? 50? And I saw it last year. Like, if the 49ers could do it over, they just would have traded Brandon Ayuk before the draft. That would have been the right move. So you got to be very careful with paying your number two wide receiver or the guy giving you number two production. But I do think with Hendrickson, what are you going to do? Let the guy walk out of the building? You'd be nuts. I think Joe Burrow is starting to realize, like, guys, I see some of these teams. I mean, I got the Raiders. The fucking Raiders are giving Chip Kelly $6 million a year to call offense. We better figure out how to generate some money here. Because it used to be like the Raiders and the Bengals, poorest teams in the league. Well, they ain't the Raiders anymore. So Mike Brown, man, pressure is on. I want to do something new here, and I want to welcome you to Chasing Challenges. And it's brought to you by my friends at Microsoft. And in the NFL, just like in the business world, overcoming obstacles is key to success. Microsoft empowers business decision makers with AI solutions, simplified cloud and data management, and trustworthy, responsible technology to turn challenges into opportunities. In this segment, we'll explore some of the biggest challenges being faced in the NFL and how these teams are going to overcome them. Whatever the challenge you're facing, Microsoft empowers you with the expertise to say, bring it on. This week, we're discussing the challenge faced by the Eagles and the Chiefs. And the one thing with Super Bowl week, when I was, when the Super Bowl came to San Francisco, I was working in radio. So I was working downtown San Francisco. I was immersed that week, Radio Row and everything. And I was doing stuff on local television. So I was just seeing the players on Monday, Tuesday, all over the city. And I remember not really seeing the Broncos. I didn't see them anywhere. And I saw the Panthers everywhere. I mean, I remember just running into players like on the corner of streets. They were just enjoying the experience. Like, made it to the Super Bowl. What an incredible accomplishment. And I think it's very, very difficult for certain players, especially young players, to not be, I would say, overwhelmed by the experience. Now, luckily, both these teams, I mean, the Chiefs win it every year. So the Mahomes, the Chris Jones, the Kelseys, the McDuffies, I mean, they got even some of their younger players. But what about like Jalen Carter, Xavier Worthy, uh, the Eagles' new draft picks, Quinyon Mitchell, right? I mean, these guys, even though these were blue chip first round players, and Jalen Carter's won an NCAA championship. I think he won two. Xavier Worthy was just in the college football playoffs. They have been to a high level of football with a lot of hoopla around it. But there's nothing like this. There's nothing like this week because it's 2 weeks. And you spend all week there. And really, Monday you practice a little bit. And I'm recording this before the thing tonight. You go to the quote unquote media night, which is, changed a little bit over the years, but still just a lot of hoopla and just a lot going on that thing. And then you get Tuesday off. And you get moments to kind of just do whatever you want to do. And this is New Orleans. Like, there is a lot to do there. And you got family, you got cousins, you got a lot of people in your life. And you're going to have to lean, if you're the Eagles, obviously the coaches can tell you whatever they want. And you're going to need the Lane Johnsons, the Brandon Grahams, those guys, because Kelsey and Fletcher Cox are gone now. When they made it last time, they had a really, really veteran team. Now they're pretty dependent on some very young players, right? I mean, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. I mean, these are clearly elite players, but this week to focus it on football, and as Pat Riley says, make the main thing the main thing, keep the main thing the main. It can be difficult. Put yourself in those shoes. If you're Xavier Worthy, it's easy for Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and these guys are win or lose, they're already legends. You're like Xavier Worthy, like I'm in the Super Bowl. Like this is freaking sweet. Probably invite some of your boys, invite your family, whoever who wants to come. Let's roll. So I think it's a big challenge just to keep everyone focused. It's not easy on the coaches, on the players, on the veteran guys. But at the end of the day, like this is the pros. And as a player, like it is somewhat on you to try to drown out the noise, kind of keep the tunnel vision. It's much easier said than done. So very, very interested to see how the young players, like what the teams do to kind of keep those guys locked in. So that's it for this week's Chasing Challenges. Remember, Microsoft's AI solution empower you to take bold steps and make informed decisions, sparking new ideas to help drive your business forward. With Microsoft as your trusted partner, you can navigate your journey with confidence, finding innovative solutions and reaching new possibilities. Visit Microsoft.com/challengers to learn something more.